All right, there we go. So we're live, but we're going to give it a quick minute to kind of propagate out. It's going out to YouTube, it's going out to a Facebook group or two. So we're going to kind of give it a minute to get everybody in as we get going. And then, all right, I think that's long enough. So, hey, everybody, I am Jason Flynn. I am a real estate agent out of Santa Cruz, California, kind of right just south of the San Francisco Bay Area in the Silicon Valley. I also do training. I am working with a company called Powered by Cloud, who it's basically we take your database and basically get you to actually engage with your database, which is what we're going to talk a lot about today with Alicia. And I wanted to bring in Alicia because we've chatted before. You might have seen on my YouTube channel before that we chatted before about how she sells 90 homes a year, only working 4 days a week. Basically very leveraged so she can actually have a life where a lot of us don't feel like we have lives anymore. So a couple quick housekeeping items. Like one, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want the recording, you'll be able to just get the recording here on YouTube. Same within Facebook. If you're in one of the Facebook groups that we're streaming this to, it's just going to pop up there automatically as soon as we're done. But at the same time, you could always email me if you need to get a copy of that. This is going to be a very kind of informal chat, much more like a podcast. And it's not like we have a bunch of slides and we're going through a very rigid thing. We had way too many registrations in order to do this on Zoom. So here we are doing it on YouTube and Facebook. But what you can do is you can drop your questions as you have them in the chat on either of the platforms, and we should be able to see them and we can answer your questions real time. So please let us know. In fact, if you can test it now, just drop in the comments, where are you watching this from? Because like I said, this went out to a lot of people. We had a few hundred people register. So I think we've kind of got the whole country covered. And other than that, I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So Alicia, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and where the heck is Chico, California?
Yes, I'm Alicia Fickert, and Chico, California is in Northern California. So we're about 3 hours from the border of Oregon and 3 hours from San Francisco. We're kind of in the middle in the hills, but also a college town. So, yep, I got my license in 2006. I started selling in 2008. I have two adorable kids. My husband is now in real estate. He joined me in 2020 because I was a solo agent with a VA for my entire career up until about 3 years ago. I'm in Gary Keller's top 100 mastermind, certified One Thing ambassador, and trying to think. Oh yeah, I work 4 days a week for the last 9.5 years because my oldest is 9.5. And my youngest just started going to TK this year. So Wednesdays now it was a mommy day because they couldn't take her. So then that made me get very purposeful with my time. And that's when it came down to I work 4 days a week. And now I'm the director of growth for our new community at KW Wellness. So Wednesday became Wellness Day for me. So yeah, it's a little about me. Oh, we love to travel, and I worked 162 days last year. And the reason I say that is because I want people to know that you can do that and you can have a life and be successful. I took the whole month of June off and I questioned it and had doubts that I could do it, and I did it. I had a burner phone. I got my phone, I gave my phone away, and I locked myself out of email. So there you go.
How many units was that, either last year or the year before? Because I know everybody kind of had an interesting year last year.
Last year, we chose to not work as much. I wanted more time off. We sold about, I think it was 78 to 80, right in there. We sell typically 82, 85, 94. The last 4 years, those are roughly our numbers.
So if you're selling 80 to 90 units a year and you worked 162 days last year, right? And so you work like 4 days a week, you took an entire month off. Let me guess, you have some massive team, you have 20 agents on your team, you have 14 admins. What do you actually have?
I have one virtual assistant that works 20 hours a week. She comes on at 1 o'clock my time. She gets off at 5. I've had her for the last 7 years, and she's been great. I'm so blessed that it clicked so well. It was hard at first having a virtual assistant if you've ever had one. There's definitely a learning curve. And it's her, me, and my husband.
That's it.
And that's it. However, no one succeeds alone. We do leverage other people, such as we leverage when we go out of town. We go out of town a lot, and so we leverage different people in our office. We'll pay them to go show property, pay them to be at an inspection. One of my clients, which is funny, reached out to me because of a survey I sent out. We send a survey once a year out to everyone through Command and have them, I think it's like through
Survey
Monkey
Monkey.
Survey, I think it was one of the questions we asked is, do you know anyone that, needs this book? And it was Gary Keller and Jay's book about my first home. And so he raised his hand. He said his son is looking to get into real estate. So he wanted to intern with us. So we actually have some free labor. He's shadowing us. He's doing flyers. He's doing drop-offs, different things like that with us. So we're leveraging different people, and we're leveraging Command with smart plans a lot so that we don't have to constantly be on our phones.
And the reason I bring this up is because I think, especially within the Keller Williams ecosphere, we talk a lot about like the MREA, the millionaire real estate agent, and the whole idea of you build a business so you can eventually exit, right? Like I was literally just talking to someone where we said, that it's essentially a lot of real estate agents don't set it up so they can ever walk away. They just kind of work until they hit a certain number. And we were talking about a few agents in particular that are above 75 that don't have exit strategies. They don't have teams in place. They just kind of go work. And what is it that they can do to get out? And so we talk a lot about that. And one of the things, I don't want to say a fault in the book, but maybe a fault in our thinking, is that it'll show you this diagram where it says, oh, you have 8 admin and you have 8 agents expanding into multiple markets, and that's how you finally get to stop being in this 7 days a week, 6 days a week, right? But in reality, how long did it really take you to actually get to that point of being able to take that time off and being able to kind of scale yourself out of your business a little bit? Like, I know you said you've been licensed since 2006, but that whole time, is that what it really took you to get there, or was there a smaller time in there?
No, I think I was a slow learner, and I wasn't with KW. So I wasn't running a business like a business, to be completely honest. I would go to work at whenever, I wasn't very purposeful with my time at the beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. I was also 21. So it was a little different of a lifestyle. And so, yeah, coming into work at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, it was like, okay, that's awesome. And we make our own schedule. That's why we got into this. No one's our boss. We can make our own schedule. Well, I didn't run a business like a business, so it did take me a lot longer. I loved working with people, love people, helping them find their home. I love the challenges of the different clients. Like I loved all that stuff. And I was building a business. However, once you start diving into all the training that KW provides, you realize you're not really running a business like a business, and you can be doing so much more. So I had my first child in 2013, and I went to a conference that year, and I hadn't joined Keller Williams yet. And so I went to a conference. It was Ninja selling. And so I really figured out there that I wanted to work with people that knew me, liked me, and trusted me. And that's what I was going to focus on. So I actually got some clarity going into that class, and how would I do that? And because there was no 36 touch where I was. And so they introduced it. So that's where I started, and I started getting very purposeful. And then when you have a child, your time kind of shrinks like a lot, especially when you're told you only have 4 days to not work with a little one by your side. So I just got super clear on what I wanted to do. And I realized I could fit so much more in my day if I planned ahead and time blocked. I mean, I knew I had to go pick up my daughter at a certain time. Like I knew I had until this time to this time. And there was that's the accountability. It wasn't like, well, I could just show up late. I can just show up to dinner at, 5 or 6, or I'll tell my friends I'm going to be late, or whatever that looks like. I didn't have that option. There was a daycare, you had to pick them up at a certain time. So I was just got super purposeful. And it wasn't until I did that for a couple of years that I saw that build. And then I realized when I started getting overwhelmed, I can leverage a lot of people in my office. And I know it sounds terrible, but I did it in a very nice way, and having a conversation with some of the newer agents, and I said, "I don't have time for all the leads that are coming in, and I don't have time to show. What if I pay you per door to go show, and I'll give you the rights to the first open houses on all my houses.
Yeah.
You have the first dibs. You get all the dibs of these, leads that are coming in, these cold leads that are coming in, or not cold leads, unmet leads. I
Yeah.
wanted to work with people that knew me, like me, and trust me. And so we made an agreement, and that's what I would do. And so I realized when I started doing that, that this was possible because I was told you have to work so many hours. And in this
Yeah.
industry, there's not a lot of great examples of people showing how you should do a business. And Gary says all the time, like, if you're working longer hours, you're cheating. So,
Yeah.
but most people don't talk about that part.
Yeah, and I think it's, that piece of saying, you almost alluded to almost feeling like you might be taking advantage of them, but it's really not because they need business, they want
Hmm.
business. A brand new agent generally wants some money, right? Like if they don't have
Hmm.
their own deal flow coming in, but at the same time, not everyone wants to just say, "Oh, well, I'm on Alicia's team," and you don't necessarily want them on your team, right? Because if they're on your
Right.
team, now you're responsible for them. If they're on your team, now they are accountable to you. But really, it's just finding a win-win with those agents to
Hmm.
say, "Hey, I don't want to do this all day every day." Right. And
Yeah.
I think it was that part of what you were just saying where it's realizing, like where you said, no, I have this hard boundary, like I have to go home for dinner. How many agents are really feeling that way? Or how many agents, and myself included, like I'm certainly not casting shade at anybody, where it's like, well, I have this plan. However, this buyer really wants to go see this house right now. And our market, I don't know about your market, our market is back to insanity of we need to show those houses within that first day or two in order to be the most competitive, right? So I'm willing to sacrifice dinner with family, or okay, having to pick up kids from a daycare, or they start charging you, or I don't know, calling child services. Fine, that might be different,
Right.
but so those become rigid, but then you become very flexible on the ones that really matter. I'm not going to use his name, but someone who's a very prominent influencer. I follow him on Instagram, and he just said he went on his first vacation of more than, I think, 4 days in 10
Mm.
years, right? Because he's been building,
Yeah.
building, building, and then realized like it's not worth it. And he was afraid of taking a step out and what's going to happen to the business, right? And guess what? I haven't talked to him since he got back. I'm sure he survived. I'm sure he's fine. I think he has enough support in order to survive that 10 days, but it is scary,
It's
and
boundaries. You're 100% right. The boundaries, and it's the mindset. Because are so if you're afraid that to go on vacation, if you're afraid to not take that phone call at 7 or 6 o'clock at night, and you're telling your family or your friends, like, hold on, this call is super important. There's a couple things there. One, what are you telling those people on the other side of, like, not the ones on the phone, but your family?
Mhm.
You can only do that so long. And I was starting to go down that path. So I know from experience, taking those phone calls and acting like that's more important than this. And I understand that this is what could, this is how they're eating, is making the sale. At the same time, there are better ways of doing it. So you have to be really clear on what your boundaries are. And I know a lot of agents have come to me over the years and said, where do I even start? Because I don't even know what to do. And I tried to tell him, I said, well, what are you doing now? And how can you just take one step and put a boundary up? Like, if you're taking phone calls, I've heard agents tell them that they're taking phone calls at 10 or 11 at night. You turn off your phone on silent. You have to now retrain all the people in your world that you're not available. Like, my phone goes on silent automatically every day at 6:30 p.m. Does not come on until 7 a.m. Like, it will not ding. It does not make noise. There's nothing that comes through unless you're on my favorite list. So obviously my husband still wants to get through to me sometimes. So that's what you just got to make sure, like, what is that boundary? Maybe it's, I'm just gonna, because I've had some agents that want to work evenings and they don't have young kids and they don't have that, so that's not a big deal, but they start their day later. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Then how can you make sure you're not working 12 hours a day? And maybe it's okay, well, I'm going to do that two nights and I'm not going to do it Friday nights. Or for me, we do Wednesday date nights. Like, how can you schedule in and block off time and put boundaries around real estate? Because it was so hard at first. I thought when I was, I don't know, 4 days a week, people called me and they said, "We want to see a property tomorrow. We want you to come list our house. We want you to look at the house." And I had to stop and take a deep breath and say, "I'm already booked on Wednesday. Wednesday's completely full. However, I can show you Tuesday night or Tuesday, or I can show you Thursday." And if it was property, I always had the conversation with the buyer. "Hey, this is a fast moving market. We don't want you to miss out on any property out there. If I can't show you, because I can't be in two places at one time, I have so and so that will show you." So if they cannot do it, which a lot of times when you push back on a buyer or seller, I was talking to someone today and they said, "Ooh, can we see something at 6?" And I, tomorrow night on a Friday, and I'm like, and I said, "That's not going to work." We started talking. He was like, "Oh, I could just take a longer lunch." A lot of times you push back one time and just shut your mouth, sit there. They will then realize, okay, yes, okay, I can do it. And I have a weird,
And
crazy story. Okay, go ahead.
no, go for it.
I I was at one of Gary's masterminds and this lady was talking about time and family, and their grandma passed away. And so she had a little kid with her. They were in the cemetery and everyone's tombstone had different things on there, like an eagle or different things. And so she was asking why there was different things on there. And because someone had like a car, like a vintage car and different things on it. And so she explained to her daughter that, hey, those are the really important things that they loved in life. And the daughter said, "Oh, for your tombstone should be your cell phone."
Oops.
That was a mic drop. Everyone in the room was super silent. The truth is, we have our phone way more than we think we do, and they're watching us. So, anyways,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
No, I mean, and that's true. And it's kind of funny. I didn't necessarily mean to wear this shirt, but I just wear the shirt all the time. New mindsets are new
Hmm.
results, right? And so, and I feel like that's what you're saying is so much of it is just the mindset of things, whether it's our mindset or helping train the mindset of the clients. At one of when you go to a mega camp or family reunion, or rather a family reunion where everyone tries to go to the breakout sessions, right? And you have your little list and you go one breakout session and it's like, oh, it's so full or it's so hot, it's standing room only. I left that one, went into another one just because they had better air conditioning. And the panel up there, it was about taking listings, or no, it was about converting your listing appointments at a higher level. And he was talking about how this one agent was talking about how he qualifies his listing appointments at such a high level that he signs 99% of them, right? And one of those things he does is he makes them come meet them in the office for a listing appointment Monday through Friday in a very specific time window. I think it's like between 1 and 4. Those are his only appointments. And what it does is it weeds out the people who he doesn't want to work with. And that's kind of what you're saying too, right? Like you
Hmm.
have a specific set of people you want to work with. And people said, yeah, but people can't get away. Someone asked, they're like, what if they can't get away from work? I said, your dentist isn't going to meet you at 8 o'clock on a Friday, right? Yet they figure out how to get time away from work for the things that are most important to them. And so if selling their house with, maybe not necessarily with you, but you can find their motivation pretty quick if they
Hmm.
want to work with you or if they really want to sell their house, because they're going to make the time for you. And you don't necessarily have to drive an hour away north or an hour south in order to go to these appointments when they could come to you. And yeah, there's some benefit of going to the house. He admitted that, but the initial consultations are always in his office. And it starts to weed out who he wants to work with. And so in your perfect world, who is it that you're working with? Like who, like what's kind of the barrier of entry to work with Alicia?
I really want to work with people that I worked with typically in the past or agent referrals. So, because I know that they have loved on their clients. And so I'm then taking it from them going, okay, I'm going to take care of your client. So it's agent referrals, client referrals that they know, friends, family. I love working with clients that I love that are just so thankful and grateful. And you know, if they ever refer you, they're usually hang out with the same people. So I love to get in groups that just keep opening the group more and more and you start working with them. So I love working with just, and I know this sounds weird, but reasonable people that you can have a conversation. I really can't stand now working with people that see you as almost like I guess as a salesperson, or see you as an enemy, or see you as like you're just trying to get a sell off of me, and then they
Yeah.
don't trust you. If they don't trust you, if you don't have a bond and a trust, the transaction is going to be a difficult transaction no matter what, which is really hard. And if you lose that trust during escrow or during a listing, that's hard to get back. So I really want to work with people that know me and trust me or know of me.
So clearly, here comes another spoiler. Here comes another leading question for you. So clearly, to do 90 deals a year with only the people you really want to work with, you must have a database of past clients that's thousands of people large, right? So now you have your massive team of 20 agents, which is really two agents. So you must have 20,000 people in your database, right?
I have a very small database, a small but mighty database, just like us as a team.
Roughly,
I
what's
always
that
say
look
that.
like?
Right now, if you're looking at met or unmet or just the whole thing.
Um, well, you want your data, most of your business is coming from your Mets, right? So let's
Mhm.
start there. How many Mets do you have in your database? In a Met, let's just say for people that aren't familiar with the terminology, people that I like the definition of if you ran into them at a grocery store, they'd at least know who you are, right? Like
Yeah.
that's usually what a Met is. So how many do you have in there?
About 11 to 1,200.
11 and 1200. Just
Mhm.
for the record, that's a lot more than what you had the last time we talked a couple years ago. So good job. You're
Thank
expanding
you.
your expanding your circle. So even 11 to 1200. Oh, actually, and I meant to ask this before. So let's say if you do 90 transactions in a year,
Mhm.
roughly, how many of those are coming from those sources that are either the your either past clients, your people that you already know, or referrals from other agents?
So, just a backstory so that everyone knows. I know we talked last time. In 2018, the Camp Fire happened in my
Oh,
area. So, just
yeah.
to backtrack just a little bit, um, I lost 90% of my town burned up and 50% of another town. So, I lost a lot of numbers. I had addresses, but there were lots. So,
They literally, like, for the context here, this is the fire in Paradise, California, which
mm,
if people aren't familiar, like there's actual documentaries
yep,
out about it
movies,
now. Like
books.
it was a very it was something I remember when that happened, and I wasn't in your market, and I remember when it happened because it was like snap your fingers, everything ended,
Yeah.
right? it
Mhm.
was it was a very nasty fire that literally everybody lost their homes essentially.
Mhm. There was 10% that was standing after that, and we don't have a lot of surrounding areas to just go to and flock, so there was literally people sleeping in
You
cars and
said 10% was left standing.
mhm. Correct.
And so 90% got wiped out in, I mean, in what felt
24
like a
hours,
minute.
less than 24
Yeah.
hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's
happened
crazy.
really fast. So, I just wanna understand my database at that point. The best guess I can have was about, um, maybe 400 people I had left in that. Um, so I have been building, and command makes you separate like husband and wife, which just drives me crazy. So that is saying that is so you're probably looking at like 500 to 600 actual like couples in there. And then we've been adding since then. We probably have altogether we have about 2,000 to 2,100 people through, campaign ads and calling on our signs and different things like that. So yeah, we are growing it. However, in 2018, it did shrink dramatically.
Yeah. And And I remember like when that fire happened, we had the Santa Rosa fire, I think it was the year
Right
before.
before.
And Gary had talked about like when you have, because Hurricane Harvey down in Houston was the same year or the next year. And I remember Gary talking about it, saying that um, it's unfortunate in one way, unfortunate in another, that, but then your business, it's more like a fire hose or a garden hose being pinched shut instead of a faucet being turned off, right? So then you get all this pent up demand, and then all of a sudden it comes back, two, three,
Hmm.
four times stronger than it was before. And I think that's probably why you see exactly what you're seeing of even your database has now just your business exploded, your database exploded. Um, but so we'd say out of the 90 transactions in a year, most of them come from that sphere
Yes.
referral or agent referral.
Yeah, we're about probably 83% from Sphere, past clients, agents. The others is going to be, there's surprisingly a lot of people that call on your sign still up here.
Yeah.
So like we get a lot of leads that way, a lot of double transactions or double ends that way. So yeah, and we also have a few like I'm a Dave Ramsey ELP, so I get a few things that way
Yeah.
as well.
But so it's mostly from that. So you figure, okay, so 83%, I'm going to do public math and it's really bad. So we'll call it like 70 transactions out of your 1,000 people, right? Is really what you're pulling out of there. How are you, how are you performing that at such a high level? Right. Because I do think a lot of people think they need some massive, huge database where yours was only 400 a couple years ago. Right. And that you've been adding, adding, adding. And so it's like, and actually, quick side note too is we've been talking a lot in KW about the 201 sphere contacts, 201 Mets that you keep in touch with at a high level. You're going to produce more than, that's that 80-20 rule. You're a one thing ambassador, right?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
that 80-20 rule, you're going to get, I want to say they, on a national average, I think it was over 120,000 in GCI, as long as you have those 200 people in your database. And that was something I remember from our last conversation where it was 500 or 600 people and you're still able to get nearly 100 transactions out of it. So, what is it that you are doing in order to keep in touch with them at such a high level that they can't help but refer you to other people?
Yeah. Good question. And it didn't, I'm going to say what I am doing now, but I'm going to say I did not always do this. It started back, so go all the way back to my first year. All I did was write a handwritten Christmas card and have a calendar magnet. And I did that every single year, but I was consistent and I hand wrote it. And I added people that if I had a listing on one block, I got the addresses of all of them. And then I just acted like I knew them because I didn't have a big database at the beginning. And then people saw me get married, have kids, and then they would call me and say, I want to list my home. And I've seen you. And I didn't, and then they would tell me their name because I saw their name over and over. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like I know who they are, but I've never met them and they still want to list with me. So I started off small and I'm being consistent is super important because if you just do it one year, like farm one neighborhood one year, that's not going to get you anywhere. So starting off small was just adding that one touch and then it was spring forward, fall back. Now we do, this is going to sound like a lot, but I'll explain. We do 5 events every year. Well, this year we're doing 5. We did 4 last year. Our office is throwing on 2. So we're partnering with our office. They're doing the Easter egg hunt and they're doing a trunk or treat. So those are very easy ways of just going to our database and inviting everyone, just like everyone, and putting a smart plan. So they're going to get a text message, they're going to get an email, then they're going to get another text message saying, can't wait to see you and your cool costumes and come get some candy and bring the kids, whatever it is. Easter bunny to come take pictures. So those 5 events that we're doing, most of them are everyone can be invited. It's like an ice cream social. They're not super expensive. Uh, every year we do a VIP one. Like we just did one. It was the Hatchet House and Taco Truck. So it was like the top agent or the top agents, the top clients, the star clients, and we just invited them. But again, they're getting touches all year, and we every year in December we get this massive calendar and I look at the whole year and I plan ahead. I'm like, okay, in March or in February, we're going to have the Hatchet House. And then in April, we're going to have the Easter. And then ice cream is in the summer. And then we're going to have the trunk or treat. And then Santa and cookies we're going to have in December. So I try to plan it out. And then I look at the gaps and then I go, okay, I'm going to do a drop by here and a drop by here. I'm going to drop off pumpkins. Say, I'm never too busy to carve out time for you. Very corny. And one of the
And
best
it
ones,
works.
everyone responds because whoever I have drop it off, I used to drop it off, but whoever I have drop it off, I have them take a step back, take a picture. So I see who the house is, I see the pumpkin, and I text the client and said, hey, I just thought you would need a pumpkin. I saw your Halloween decorations. They look great. Or, hey, just thought you needed one. Maybe the kids can carve one. I get so much like back and forth and we have such a great conversation. So it's just looking at, are we touching them all year long instead of just one part of the year, and just being very strategic, because then around that and I'm sending out like, may the fourth be with you, and come to our ice cream socials on the other side. Like just being super purposeful and all year long we're touching them, and then put in your touches, like your actual you texting or calling them. Like, so we do between 30 and 50 touches every year. It just depends on where you lie in our database.
You mentioned your star clients, right?
Mhm.
Tell me about them. Like, what are they? How do you become one? And uh, how many do you have in your database?
I have probably about 20. I don't have a ton. Those are the people that have referred me multiple times. They sing from the mountaintops that you're the best agent, even if they like never have had. I have clients that have never had to sell or buy a house. However, they've referred me so much business that they are in my star. Like I will always invite them first. And then if they can't make the event, then I go down the list. So I always start with the star clients. So they worked with me multiple times or they referred me a ton, or they're also big influencers in the community. So those are the people, because then you can tag them on social media. And I also have taken a step further and told people, if you carve the pumpkin, you can, and
There you
tag
go.
us on social media, you can win $50 to the steakhouse or whatever it is.
Um, how intentional are you on that program right there of saying like, hey, when you do that, I'll enter you into this raffle or drawing or whatever? How often are you doing that? Like throughout the year or on every event?
That I didn't start doing that until 2020 when everything was shut down, and I was like, well, how can I really connect with people when I can't see them and I can't have client events? So I think I did 5 to 8 drop-bys that year. And the first one I ever did it is I had a local restaurant that obviously couldn't do a lot besides, come pick up your food and go home. I had them make 100 lava cakes for Mother's Day, and they were delicious. They were like this big, and we wrapped them all up, and we said on there, if they took a picture and tagged us on there, they got $50 to that steakhouse. I think I think we handed out 100, well, a little less than 100, probably it was about 90. And I think I had 37 people tag me. I mean, like it was just all over like my news feed. So I didn't start that in 2020, and we do it about twice a year. I also now do monthly giveaways. So if you follow me on social media, every month we do a monthly giveaway because it's just fun. And I like to have silly things in there like pie day. You win a pie even though it's PI day. So yeah,
Close enough.
yeah.
So it's everything. Like, think about everything you're saying. You're like, I just want to go have ice cream socials or the hatchet one, right? Like axe throwing. Like, I just want to go have fun. It's almost like, what do you want to do? And can you invite them all along? And to like really break that down, you said you have 1,000 in your Met database, 1,000, 1,100, but only 20 people. So that's less than 2% are the ones that matter the most, right? And so it does kind of make it so kind of obvious to say, look, yes, you need to touch everybody. Yes, you need to communicate with everybody, but these 20, that's like your fragile, the glass balls
Hmm.
versus the rubber balls when you're juggling, right? If you drop the
Hmm.
glass ball, now you're just in trouble. right? And so how do you the thing people need to think about is how do you keep in touch with those 20 who are your most critical? I call them in my database in command, I have them tagged as VIP, right?
Mm.
Like those are my most important people, the people who I'm sure if I keep in touch with them, they will send me business or do a deal with me. But I have a lot of agents in there. So I just say, will either refer me somebody or will connect me with somebody. Kind of same thing. I have a few in there that I don't know if they are, but they're influential enough that I need to keep on top.
Well, and
Um,
that list is always changing
right.
because maybe they had a family member become an agent, or maybe
Mhm.
because I've had that happen, and then it's like, okay, I completely understand. So they're no longer a VIP, or they move away. We've had a lot of people move away just because of what happened with the fire, and they thought they wanted to rebuild, but they didn't. So I've had just over the years, I just have a massive exiting, I feel like, out of my database, and then just constantly trying to feed it back.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, just, yeah, being purposeful and
Well,
getting clear on who they are, and then just loving on them constantly.
and something I should have asked maybe earlier on is if you are only working 4 days a week, and even those 4 days, it's kind of limited hours. It's not like you're working 4 days at 15 hours a day, so you're still getting to 60 hours a week, right?
Mhm.
Like you're still working a very reasonable amount of time every day. What is it that your role now really is on your team, right? Because you have what are you doing, and what is your husband slash agent doing?
Got it. So it's looking very different every year. The first year he was in the business in 2020, it was like, hey, welcome to retirement because no one's showing houses and you're just going to stay at home with the kids. And then it became towards the end, he shadowed me on everything. We did every appointment together for, I think it was like a year and a half. That was on the seller side, but then he took over the buyer side very quickly, and that takes a lot of time, and it takes showing property can take a long time. So he was doing all the buyers, I was doing all the sellers up until last year. And then this year we're transitioning that the goal is I don't go on any face-to-face appointments. I will make, like, I was on lead gen this morning, like, do lead gen, I'm running the business, I'm looking at what do we need to change, what do we need to do, like almost like a care bear. Like, I also am like, how can we love on our clients? Because that's fun for me. So I call it a care bear. If I ever hired another like the
That's
next admin, it
amazing.
would be a care bear because I want them to love on everyone and to know like every little, it's like, oh, that's a baby's like they're 1 year old and let's give them like a cake or something. So I know we can get more purposeful about that. And that's my role, is to do that more, is to not do face to face and for him to do face to face. But I'm also helping with difficult transactions, difficult conversations, and making sure people understand and just educating the sellers like weekly of saying, this is what the market's doing, this is where we need to go. So kind of just like the background. I want to be in the background. I've been not the background for 16 years. And so taking a step back for me, I'm excited about.
I mean, so you really become more like the CEO, right? You're the puppet master kind of running
Yeah.
everything. And
Mhm.
you absolutely need to hire a Care Bear. And when you put out the ad for it, it has to say Care Bear in it, or I'm
Yeah.
going to be
The
really
one, the
disappointed.
rainbow Care Bear. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marjorie Brown asked a question, and it's a
Yeah.
perfect segue. And that's getting into how do you leverage command in all this? Because you have a part time VA, a full
Mhm.
time agent, and then you are, I'm going to call you mostly full time, but so you have essentially you are the administrative, the operations side, then you have an admin, and then you have an
Mhm.
agent. You mentioned earlier you're using command and tech to kind of help organize everything. How are you using that right now?
So we use Command for everything, and I've been using Command for years now. So it's not just like, hey, we just came over. And it's so much better, and
I was
it's
gonna say you went
so much
through
better
you went through
than it
the
was.
days of command we won't talk about,
Yes,
but so
and that's
we'll just
okay.
go with we'll call it. This is not an official term. I'll call it Command 2.0. That
Yeah.
you're in it now, and
Yes.
it's working well. What kind of works well best for you right now that you're using?
We use opportunities. And what really works is the smart plans. I know I've already said that a couple times, and I know I keep going back to it, but it really does work if you're very like, since I know where all our events are,
Mhm.
I can plan ahead, have my VA put together a text message, put together the email, put together the other text messages going out, create the smart plan, have it ready, and then we don't have to think about it when we're okay. Did the Easter egg thing went out? Yes, it went out because we had it scheduled already. So it's just being purposeful of using command with smart plans. I think it's so great, even if it's just sending one thing out. Like we'll send a monthly newsletter and we'll still use it through command. We'll do a yearly survey to our clients. Um, I also did campaigns a bunch a couple years ago and they worked out really well. It slowed down a little, and so
Mhm.
Jason's gonna help me with that a
You
little
mean for
bit.
like for Facebook ads and
Yes.
Instagram ads through
Yeah.
campaigns? And that's just in general, they've slowed
Yeah.
down a little in some markets, they've slowed down,
Yeah.
and
So it has,
that's, yeah, a
but
tough
I
one.
but I use that a lot. I also do just listed and just sold postcards. We use it in a lot of different ways. Also, I love that the app actually. The app is really
Yeah.
easy. We track our birthdays, our anniversaries. It's super easy. I feel like to use.
So you're actually sending the postcards through command as well? Like where
I
you can
use
actually like circle or you tell it what area and how many neighbors you want to go to?
yes, and sometimes because they are different than Michael Lewis. I use Michael Lewis a lot too, so it depends on how fast I want it to
Okay.
go out. Is
Yeah.
depend on who I use.
Yeah. That's again, Swiss Army knife, right? You can
Mhm.
use it for what you need it for. But I do think, that can be a huge time saver if, again, if you're planning ahead and you don't need it to go out immediately, or yeah, so kind of more for your planned farming, right? Where you
Mhm.
can just go in and say, I want this neighborhood, homeowners that have owned this long, right?
Yep.
Or longer, and go. And it
Yeah.
just saves time. And it's something that's very duplicatable. And when it's duplicatable, it's teachable to a virtual assistant. You
Yes.
don't, and especially you and I are in California, salaries are no joke in California,
Mhm.
and even going to virtual assistants has, you know, some people love it, some people hate it, but it's like it's becomes pretty critical here, right? Where instead of paying someone $60,000 a year to do very basic work, because that's almost what feels like minimum wage starts to get to you, it's makes it a lot easier for those menial tasks, right? Those little ones that are repeatable that you could teach somebody else. Within smart plans, are there any like specific that you're using that are already pre-built, or are you guys pre-build it or building your own of everything that you want to do?
We typically build our own. However, we also do like the monthly nurture newsletters that go out to the clients. So we do utilize a few of them, but we really like to customize it and have our logo and make it just look a little different.
So again, kind of easy peasy. Um, Nice that, yeah, some are pre-built, but making mostly your own. Let's see, you said campaigns. What about even just within contacts? Like, I mean, obviously you'll have to have one for your starred people, like a separate tag for them.
Oh,
Is
tags.
there anything
Oh,
fancy?
so many
Yeah.
tags. So many tags. I didn't even think about that. Yes, we have a tag if you're a father. We have a tag if you're, for a birthday. We have a tag what town you're in. We have a tag if you went to our event. If you said no to an event. I mean, we have a tag if you sold or bought or what year it was, um, and then where you are. If you're now like a seller A or a seller C, and we have so many tags. People can literally have probably like 3 rows of just tags. So yes, lots of tags. I even use the reminder to, follow back up with them. So yeah, we use the notes, we use everything in it. I forgot about this part.
You know what's kind of funny too is that this almost sounds rude in a way, but it's like, oh, just basic stuff. But maybe that's the point, is that you don't need all the fancy bells and whistles that I have a subscription to a couple other platforms actually where they give you so many bells and whistles that then you get distracted with the other ones when really it's I need a CRM that I can tag people, I can segment people, and I can communicate with certain groups of people in a meaningful way. And that's like going back to 80/20 rule, that 20% that really matters, that's what I need a CRM to do, or any tech platform to do. Right now, it then makes it a little bit easier with being able to do those postcards or being able to automate some of the communication with smart plans. But it's really, can you tag people out to segment? I think the perfect example is down to those star clients. You can track when was the last time you talked to them. You can track how can I blast a message out to all of them. Do you use Twilio at all in your
Yes.
communication through command, like automated texts?
Yep.
What's that look like for you?
A lot of them.
Actually, here's a better question. Do you ever use it with your sphere, or only with
Both.
leads?
Nope, both all the time. My clients they know I'm busy. They know I don't. I mean, if I'm trying to get out there, hey, we have Easter, and we just sent that out. I think it was like yesterday, the day before. It went out, and it's coming from Twilio, and I'm okay with it because here's the thing: like, they know that I'm helping people sell and buy houses. So, me sending out an individual text isn't it doesn't make sense. And you know what? If they're my star clients, if they're my top A's, if they're about to buy or sell, I'm calling and texting them because I go in and I see that they haven't responded. So then I'm
Yeah.
texting them a personal text, or I might call them, especially if they have a young family and I know the Easter Bunny is going to be there. And I'm just going to call and say, hey, did you see the text that went out? I just
You
want to
didn't
make sure.
reply.
Yeah, you didn't reply. And that's what my VA is tracking that and responding to that. So I want to make sure that if someone's responding, that we respond back. And if someone's not responding and they're in my top, I'm going to look before the event. I'm not going to wait for the event. I'm going to look before the event and say, hey, would love to see you there. Wanted to personally invite you. Because the other one comes from Alicia and Keith Fickert, the Fickert team. So
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people, and myself included, until last year, I was like, oh, I wouldn't send it through Twilio. It sends that little unsubscribe text. But all you have to do is teach the people, this is my work number. And like
mhm.
you do it one time and then you're done. And it's like, like now they know it's your work number. And I think you have a good point there about, they want you to be busy. You want to be busy, right? Like if you're available, if they can just pop by your office anytime and you're there 24/7, maybe something else is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they start to pick up on that. That's like, wait, what do you actually do here? I did an interview last year with Mike Hyde out of at Missoula, Montana. I was gonna say I always forget where, but he's out in Montana and he communicates with his sphere through Command and Twilio at a very, very high level, to the point that while we were, and I'll try to post a link just to this segment in the comments below later, where we were doing one of these little interviews and he pulls it up on the screen, selects 100 random people and sent a message, and he was like, hey man, it's Mikey, what are you doing this Father's Day? And he hit send, like just while we were talking. I had no idea he was going to do it. He was like, I don't know, let's see what happens. And he sent it to 100 people. He got, I think, 24 responses back in the next 10 minutes. And there are people that are like, hey man, like hanging out at a barbecue, why, what's up, or what are you doing? And all of a sudden these are people he already knows. They already know him, like him, trust him, and they're communicating with him through that. He had one person send back a stop response, and he's like, crap, like why'd they hit stop? So he goes and looks into it. He accidentally sent it to one of his other team members sphere, so they had no idea who he was. So of
Who
course they're
you
going to say,
yeah.
who's Mikey asking me what I'm doing for Father's Day? And there's a stop option, so they used it.
Right.
He got 3 people in his pipeline through that text that instantly were like, oh, actually, I needed to talk to you about this. And then he found out one person had just lost a family member. So then
Mhm.
he went and reached out to them individually because they said something about, oh, I'm going to my brother-in-law's funeral. It's like, crap, I didn't know that. And so it's like he did more in that one text going out to 100 people than most agents will do in a week of communicating with their sphere. He'd made 24 meaningful connections in 10 minutes, kind of
From a
on
text.
on a joke. It was kind of a
Well,
joke,
yes
you
and no.
know?
I think he was, I don't, I mean, I would say I think he knew because he's
Yeah,
been doing that. That's something he's been
yeah,
doing. Again, we're supposed to be touching our clients 4 times a year. There's a reason. Like, databases are excellent and all these things are great, and you still have to have the connection. Like, you still need to go deeper with them. So the fact that they responded and then he picked up the phone and said, oh, I didn't know, I'm so sorry to hear about your brother-in-law, he took it a step further. And again, it's about having conversations.
yeah. I actually like what this is something Wendy Willis, or Wendy Wills rather, just commented on, saying that she has her Twilio number on her digital
Mm,
business card, right?
smart.
So then when you save her digital business card into your phone and she texts through her Twilio number, it still pops up as Wendy Wills. Wendy Wills. Man, I've got a tough time with that name. So that's a great idea, right? Because then all it's doing is it's helping you automate. And automation means you get to take 3 days off a week, when most of us, again, I was just talking about, a very prominent agent who hadn't taken 4 days off in a row in 10 years,
So
right? So it's
sad.
like,
I
um,
I love vacation.
yeah. Well,
So
so and kind of as we like, first off, if anyone else has any remaining questions, we're going to start to kind of wind this down, and I can bribe Alicia to come back another time where we can dig into more questions. But if you have any questions, give them in the comments now. But one thing I wanted to make sure we talked about was your new role as the Director of Growth for KW Wellness. And one, what is KW Wellness? And then two, why it's important to you and what you're doing in your business.
so when I started to get overwhelmed and I felt like I was just running in circles and working 4 days a week, and it was awesome that I was working 4 days, but it was also super stressful. I wasn't taking care of myself. And so I started to go on a journey of how can I start living my life and taking care of myself, because it was so easy to put everyone else first. So I started going to the gym, I started going working out, and I got therapy for the fire, different things that was needed. And so I'm very passionate about wellness. I've been on a journey for a while now. And then this came up, and KW Wellness is what wellness means to me is going to be different for you, Jason. It's going to be different for Wendy or anyone else. And so we welcome everyone and anyone to come join us. It's a community. We have a free version. We also have a paid version, but it's awesome because we go over, there's 7 pillars. And the 3 that we focus on is physical, mental, and emotional, which every agent that's out there, I
They
know
have
it
one of those needs.
needs that. Yes. So it's very awesome. We even have a platform that we have. It's called Well Beats, and it has great recipes. It has workout videos. It has meditation. Has so many things. So just being a part of the community, you do get a platform. We're doing virtual events. We're doing destinations. We're going to Arizona in July to do like a yoga retreat. And every month we do 2 phone calls about masterminding around whatever the initiative is for the month. So this month in March is nutrition. Next month is about stress, which everyone in this business has been
There's no
stressed.
stress. What are you talking about?
And then May is mental. So it's just going over different things and helping agents and leadership. We have a completely different one for leadership that
Oh, cool.
I give them a bunch. We mastermind. I give them a bunch of ideas to take down to recruit and retain agents through their office. Like, for example, we were just talking on a call yesterday, like having a yoga instructor come in or having a massage therapist come in, and so different things like that. So, anyways, yeah, I love it. It aligns with myself and what I've been doing in my journey of taking care of myself, and I want all the agents to take care of themselves, because vacation is for mental, like it's a mental awareness, like taking time and taking care of yourself and reflecting every Friday for, I don't know, the last 3 years. I do reflecting or thinking time, whatever you want to call it. It's the same day, same time. Reflect on the week that just happened. I reflect on the week that's coming. And I look at my business as a whole and look at the whole calendar and where we're going. If you don't take time to stop, because I put my head down and I run, if you don't come up and breathe and have a vacation or have thinking time, you're just going to keep doing this like a
Yeah.
hamster. And I don't want that for people. I want people to look up and realize there's probably a better way of doing this, or hey, I don't have to grind so hard. I can do this, or is this so eye-opening of so many different things you can do differently in your business and connecting with people. So we have a really great community. Would welcome anyone and everyone. You guys can find us on Facebook too. And so we just have some really awesome events and awesome training.
I dropped both the Facebook group link in the comments and then as well as the one to the actual kw.com's communities page. I'm in the Facebook group. Definitely join that because I see all the posts. I see you'll get the links to the live streams and all the different things in there. On your Friday, reflection time, how long is that blocked out for? How long does that take you every week?
Typically it's 8. By the time I get there and sit down, I always go to the same coffee shop, and it's about 8:30 to about 9:30, or 8 to 9:30. Roughly,
Okay.
it's about an hour and a half because I really take time I bring my calendar and I look at that and I really focus on that. And then I also take, like, I know what our numbers are because I am an avid, like, 411 and 12-week year girl. And so I'm constantly looking at that. So I know where we're maybe not hitting the mark, or I had a light bulb at this last family reunion that I used to do a lot more Care Bear stuff throughout the transaction and I haven't. So just masterminding around that and writing all the different ideas I have, just taking time to breathe, slow down, and then look, like, what are we missing?
Yeah.
How can we be better?
I forget who it is. This used to be one of my favorite stories. Now I can't even remember who it is. But he has thinking time blocked out in his calendar every so often throughout a week, right? And so
Mm.
people will come to him with a proposal and be like, "Well, I think we should do A, B, C, X, Y, Z," and he'll literally like flip open this little calendar and be like, "Great, I can't think about this until Wednesday." Right? And at first you
I
think
love
like,
it.
oh, that's too crazy of a schedule that he can't even think about it until next week or whatever. And it's not about that. It's about being intentional about what he's going to think about, to say, okay, during that thinking time, I need to reflect on what's the business plan? How does this new proposal fit into this business plan? Is it something that's worth putting our time, money, or resources into? And so he actually has it structured a few times throughout the week to do that.
Yeah, I've had
Robert
people.
says, Care Bear? Yes, the Care Bear is that's her new admin she's going to be hiring as the Care Bear.
It's a person that will know and take care of anyone that had a baby, a wedding, throughout the transaction. They say they're stressed. The other day, I was coming up with a stress packet. Like, how can we give our clients, because they're stressed every single transaction, it seems like, because they're not used to it. We do it day in, day out, but then they say they're stressed. One of the ways to reduce stress is going to walk. So creating a map of all the different walking paths in your area, putting it in a bag with 2 water bottles and maybe some dog treats if they have a dog, or a walking tracker in there, and just say something like, hey, I know you're stressed, go take a walk. Just a Care Bear take care of, just take care of all my clients and love on them.
The Care Bear does it all.
Yes. But going back to what you just said, I've had people say, like, doesn't it, like, why your days are so structured? Like, that's weird. Don't you just, and I'm like, yes, if you look at it that way, it can also get really boring because you do the same thing. However, it gives you more time and more space to get things done because you know it's going to get done,
Hmm.
and you're also giving it the proper time and attention. That guy, when he said, no, I have Wednesday available, that's great because he's literally giving his time and saying, I'm going to give it the proper time to process all the angles instead of just saying yes or no and then not seeing a side that he would have if he just took a little more time. So I think that's great.
Well, like we just saw Ryan Holiday at Family
Hmm.
Reunion, right? And I loved he pulled up his example of a perfect schedule. He pulls up his schedule on his phone and there was nothing on it. And people are like, why do you want nothing? And he's like, because that's my creative time. He's like, when I
Hmm.
look at my schedule and I see, oh, I have this Zoom or this meeting and things like that, he's like, it just breaks up it breaks up his brain to say, oh my God, now I have to go do that, which takes away from my creative time. And I think like I need to go find the story to remember who that was that does that, but he probably has such a crazy life that or business where he has to make sure that creative time is in there, right? Otherwise, you just going back to your hamster wheel comment, right? Otherwise, you're just always on the wheel. You never have a time to stop and think. And like I know you said you took all of June off where it was like, no, like delete the phone or like get the burner phone,
Mhm.
don't check email, anything like that. I've even done it before where it was like, no, I couldn't 100% go away that week, but we were going away. And so what we did was I just structured like 1 hour in the middle of a day, right? Like I had multiple offers
Yes.
out going on that week. There was just no way it like, yes, there's some way I could have done it, but at least in my mindset at the time, I was like, "There's no way." And so I told my wife, it was like we were at this little, like, vacation town down in Southern California, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go sit on that bench on my phone for an hour." And I called my TC, checked in on I had some stupid number of escrows going at the time. So, like, I called in, checked in on the TC. I texted her ahead of time, "I'm gonna call you between 11 and 12. Like, talk to me then." And so knocked out ABC, XYZ. Go check in with these couple of clients, give them an update on their offer or whatever, what was happening. And then my phone went right back to do not disturb.
Mhm.
Right, and something that, Michael Putnam, who I'm
Yep.
pretty sure you would know with United Home Group, something I learned from him early when I started about 7 years ago that I never really tried until a couple months ago was his phone was always on do not disturb. He's like, "Because why do I care? Like, they're just calling and interrupting." And so I did the same thing for a while. I need to go back to doing it honestly, but where I had it set up where my wife could break through, and that was it. Nobody else could really break through. Maybe a couple other people where my phone's just always on do not disturb because you're gonna check your phone on average every 8 minutes anyways. And
It's
if you're
crazy.
checking it every 8 minutes, even if you cut that in half to every 16 minutes, like great,
Mhm.
you're gonna look at your phone anyways. So call that person back. Oh, but what if it's the escrow company? Okay, great. Like the deal did not burn down in 8 minutes. And if it did, you probably couldn't have saved it in that 8 minutes anyways. It died yesterday. It just nobody told you about it till today. And so just that was a neat little life hack I meant to mention earlier. But
No, those are all great points. And Ryan Holiday does have a busy life. However, we all have busy lives. The reason
yeah,
he structures it so well is so that he can go on walks with his daughters in the morning and that he
yeah.
has the creative thinking time. So even if you don't have a crazy, everyone out there, if you don't have a crazy life or don't think that you do, you don't have to, you can still structure your day. Your time
Mhm.
is just as valuable as Ryan Holiday.
Yeah. Well, during this, we've been at this for an hour and 3 minutes. During this time, you have taken 4 phone calls, responded to 3 texts. Like I saw you, right? Like we
Yep.
can figure out how to block out time here and there. I think that's kind
Mhm.
of that's like the key. So kind of final parting thoughts. You got anything? If there was one thing people were supposed to take away, what do you think that was?
Just mindset of knowing that you don't have to work a certain number of days. You don't have to follow the exact model. I don't fit into Gary Keller's model. He wants us to break it.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying throw the book away. The book is great and you should be doing certain things. But if you don't want a massive team, don't have a massive team. I didn't want a massive team. I have a small and mighty team, and that's what I call it.
Yeah.
And but just get purposeful. If you start getting burnt out, don't just call it quits. Every Wednesday, take it off. I find Wednesdays are very easy because you talk to your clients on Monday and Friday, so they don't call you on the weekend, and then take something off in the middle, or just try to figure out design your life. I mean, they say life by design. I was like, I don't know what that means, but really, you start implementing one thing and one habit, and you keep just doing that, and you will find that you created this world that Wednesdays, a lot of people know not to even call you. Or they know it's okay that you won't even respond to them. That's the great thing. They're like, oh, it's Wednesday. I know you won't respond, but blah, 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 blah. So it's just like create that world. What does it look like for you? Because it's different for everyone. And just get super purposeful. It gets boring, but do it anyways. Be consistent and purposeful.
I've texted you on a Wednesday before and you texted back saying it's Wednesday. Or
Yeah,
like I
just
think
because you knew, I was like, you should know.
it doesn't mean just because I don't always know when it's Wednesday. That's different. But or like there was something with the region once where they were trying to get Alicia to come on and like be our guest speaker,
Oh,
but the meetings were always on Wednesdays. It's like,
mhm.
well, Alicia doesn't work Wednesdays, so it
They
becomes your
literally told me,
brand.
I pushed back and I said, "Look, I don't work Wednesdays." I said, "I
Yeah.
get that. Is there another way we can do this?" And then Zach got back to me and said, "Why don't we do a recording?"
Weird.
And I'm like, "Perfect. Let's do that." See, if you push back,
Weird how that works.
it happens.
New
So,
mindsets, new results. It's all about
yep.
mindset. So cool. All right. I will drop more of your information in the comments as well. So when you have people going to very Northern California, you
Mhm.
obviously have someone to call. It's like you said, college town, but also kind of retirement town up in the hills, isn't it? Do you get a lot of
Mhm.
retirees coming your way?
Retirees, people moving away from the Bay Area, coming up. Yeah, college. And then parents that want to buy for their college, so investment. So yeah, Chico,
Yeah.
California, Northern. So yeah, anything up here you can send my way.
It's the
You
place
can
to
follow
be.
me on
So
Facebook, Instagram. You guys will find me. Fickert. There's only one Alicia Fickert in the whole world.
are you sure about that? Because you'll
Yeah.
someone here will find the one here. I'll also post your this is to your actual Facebook page, not to the Facebook group, to your Facebook page. All right, and then I forgot to tell you before. Hang out for 1 second, but we're gonna wrap this up. And like I said, you can always drop in comments as well. If you're watching the recording, you can still drop in comments, and we'll catch them later. And so, other than that, everyone have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Jason.
Bye.